No, we're Sefer Shoftim, chapter 16. After a long break for the holidays, we'll continue. So before the holidays, we finished the story of Shimshon, which finished the second part of the book. So we said in the beginning, we said the book has three parts. The first part is about the itnachalut, meaning that each tribe took his part in the land of Israel, and then there's like a general introduction of the book. And then the second part is the stories of the Shoftim, the specific individual Shoftim. So Ehud ben Gera, and Niel ben Knaz, Shimshon, Yiftach, Gidon, all the Shoftim, all the different stories that describe a period of hundreds of years, which called Tkufat HaShoftim, the period of the Shoftim, of the judge. And then now in chapter 16 until the end of the book, it's the last, no, it's not 16, excuse me, it's 17, yeah. From chapter 17 to the end of the book, it's another part. It contains two stories, two, again, specific stories. It's not general description of time, it's specific stories that according to most of the Mefarshim, it's not, it didn't happen here, meaning it's not after the story of Shimshon, then we read about these two stories. It's something that happened apparently in the beginning or in the middle of the time of the Shoftim. We'll talk about the proofs for that. And it was put here in the end of the story because I think because it represents all the book or the principal message of the book. And the principal message is of a failure of Am Israel to hold the standard that Hashem expects from him, and the urgent need in leadership, in a permanent leadership. And that's the reason that in these two stories, there are several things that are similar between these stories. Also, when we see the details, we will mention them. But one of them is one sentence that repeat several times during the two stories. בימים ההם אין מלך בישראל, איש הישר בעיניו יעשה. In these days, there's no king in Israel. Everybody does what he finds good in his eyes. Let me read the translation here. Yeah, like for example, in verse 6, in chapter 17, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did as they pleased, as he pleased. Everybody did as he pleased. So this is maybe the main verse in all this, and the main message that Am Yisrael is not in a good situation. And these two stories really are the extreme of that. They are very sad, tragic story, mainly the second one. The first one is not so tragic, but it is an example of the low level of Am Yisrael in this time. The big sins and idolatry and theft and robbery and all the bad things that you can imagine, they are in these stories. And murder, of course, a lot of murder in these stories. So, and what are the messages? There are three messages, I think, or that all of them are one. The three main failure, and we mentioned that in the beginning of the book. First of all, we have problem, let's say, in Am Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, Torat Yisrael. Meaning, Am Yisrael, the problem that we are not united, everybody is for himself, and there were struggles and battles inside of Israel. So we saw during the stories of the book several times that there were war inside Am Israel, or at least conflict inside Am Israel. In the time of Gidon, he could avoid it, but if Ephraim wanted to go to a war against Menashe, in the time of Yiftach, he didn't avoid that, and he killed dozens of thousands of people from the tribe of Ephraim. In the time of Shimshon, we saw how the sons of Yehuda, the members of Yehuda, gave up Shimshon to the Plishtim. So the problem of lack of union inside Am Israel is also emphasized in the stories that we are going to see. The second problem is Eretz Israel, meaning lack of decisive decision to take the land of Israel. There's no enough commitment to take all the land of Israel. And it's also something that is alluded in these stories. And the third one, and maybe the principle, is idolatry. So all these three problems: idolatry is the problem between us and God, Am Israel is the problem between us and each other, and Eretz Israel is the problem between us and our land. All of that lack of commitment, choosing the wrong way. So all these problems are told in these two stories in the end of the book, and they are reflecting the problem of all the book, of all the time of the Shoftim, of the judge. Now, I will tell very, very shortly the two stories. After that, we're going to read verse by verse and see the details. Just tell the story that we will know what we are talking about. So the first story is called Pesel Micha. So it was a person called Micha. He had some kind of a temple with pesel. How do you say pesel in English?
Statue.
A statue? Pesel. You know, idol. Yeah, idol. So he had a temple with an idol, and he hired someone from the tribe of Levi to be a Kohen. He was upgraded to be Kohen. And after that, the people of the tribe of Dan, they looked for a place to live because they couldn't take their part in the land of Israel. Like I mentioned, the problem with the land of Israel. And they went through this temple, and the prophet, the Kohen, the Levi that will become Kohen, told them that it's going to be okay. We'll see again the details. They went, they took the land that they wanted to live in, and in the way, they took the Kohen with them. They stole this young, it's called a Na'ar, this young person. They stole him from the temple of Micha and took him to be the Kohen of the tribe of Dan. Yeah, I said the tribe of Levi or the tribe of Dan? The tribe of Dan went to the north to look for a place to live, and they took with them this child. So this is the first story. We'll see more details about that, but we understand that there was institutional idolatry inside Am Israel, stealing and robbing from each other, and making war in order to find place to live. So this is the first story. The second story is even worse than that. So there was a person that went through a place called Giv'ah that belonged to the tribe of Binyamin. He stayed there in the night. In the night, the people of the place demanded to kill him, to violate him, and he took the wife that he had, not a wife, a concubine, and gave her away. They raped her all the night, all the people of the city, until she died. He took her body, divided it into 12 parts, sent to each one of the tribes, and called them to take revenge or to punish the people who did that. The tribe of Binyamin covered for these people. They didn't want to give them. So there was a war, a civil war between Am Israel and the tribe of Binyamin. In this war, in the beginning, the tribe of Binyamin was winning the first days of battle until the last day they lost and were almost eliminated. Am Israel make a promise that nobody will marry the tribe of Binyamin, so there was a risk that they are going to erase one tribe of Am Israel, but in the end there was a solution for that. So again, like I said before, we see the weakness in the relationship between the land of Israel and Am Israel until the Shevet Dan had to go to the north to find place to live, not in historical inheritance. And then we see the problem, of course, of idolatry and the hate inside Am Israel. The only war that we see that all Am Israel participated in Shevet Shefer Shoftim is a war against each other. All the other wars that we see against Moab and Ammon and Plishtim and Knaani, we saw only part of some tribes went. Those who were concerned about this place, those who were affected by the problem, they were the only one who went to the war. But The only war where all of Israel participate is again a war against each other. So these main problems of Am Israel, Eretz Israel, Torah Israel, the nation of Israel, the land of Israel, and the Torah or our relationship with God, all these three problems are very emphasized in these three stories, in these two stories. And I think that this is like a summary of the book. It's a summary of the book with these two specific stories. As I mentioned before, according to most of the opinions, these stories didn't happen in the end of the period of the Shoftim, but in the beginning, or at least in the middle. And there are several proofs for that. Maybe the main one that the proof is going out of the verses itself is that the fact that Shevet Dan is looking for inheritance. And this was in the beginning of the time of the Shoftim, not in the end of the time of the Shoftim. So it looks more logical to say that it was in the beginning. Also, according to Chachamim, some of the people that are mentioned in the stories lived in the time of Yetziat Mitzrayim. So it's not impossible, but it's hard to say that they lived 100 of years until the end of the time of the Shoftim. It's not impossible because we know that according again to Chachamim, there were some people that lived hundreds of years. But the problem in that case is that most of these people that live hundreds of years are wicked. So we wouldn't consider that they have so long life. Again, not impossible. In the way we learn Tanakh, it's not impossible that someone live hundreds of years. It's not impossible that he was a wicked person, but it's not very resonate, or how do you say, reasonable. Which are the people? So Micha himself, according to the legends of Chachamim, according to the Agadot, to the Midrashim, went out from Egypt. He was a kid that Moshe Rabbeinu himself saved. We will see this story. Oh. And he lived all these 40 years into the land of Israel, survived all the days of Yoshua to make the Pesel. The Levi, the little child that he make as a Kohen, according to Chachamim, is the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen for idolatry. Wow. And there is a allusion to that in the verse. I'll just show you that. Oh, it's not touch. Look on chapter 17. Just a second. משפחת יהודה והוא לוי. משפחת יהודה meaning he grew up with יהודה, והוא לוי is from the tribe of Levi. Look on verse, just a second. Look on verse 30 in chapter 18. It says, ויקים להם בני דן את הפסל, ויונתן בן גרשום בן מנשה, הוא ובניו היו כהנים לשבט הדני עד יום הגלות הארץ. So they made the pesel. The Danit set up the sculptured, how do you say, sculptured? S-C-U-L-P-T-U-R-E-D. Sculptured. Right, pesel, let's say pesel, okay, it's easier word. So they set up the pesel image for themselves, and Yonatan, son of Gershon, son of Menashe, and his descendants served as priests for the Danit tribe until the land went into exile. Now, do you see something strange in the word Menashe? For those who don't
oh, the noon is small.
Yeah. I will show you.
Menashe.
You know that there are some letters
in the Torah.
Traditionally in the Torah are written in other way. We have special conditions today. And it says, it's written like that. Me-na-she.
Noon is up.
Oh, the noon, yeah.
The noon is hen, said, nun tluya. So you know that there are some letters in the Torah that is written traditionally in other manner.
Yeah.
For example, Vaikra, in Sefer Vaikra, the Aleph is a small one.
Oh.
The Daled in Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, is a big one. And the Vav in Briti Shalom in Pinchas is cut in the middle. It's written like that, the Vav.
Yeah.
Right? So there are traditions about how to write certain letters in the Bible. And this Nun is up. Why? It's saying that the Tanakh wanted to hide the name of Moshe. So it won't be named.
Moshe, Ben Gershom, Ben Moshe. Because
Gershom was the son of Moshe. When it says Yonatan, Ben Gershom, Ben Menashe, but the Nun is up, meaning you can, if you delete the Nun, you will find the word
Moshe.
Moshe. So according to that, the Levi was actually the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu was a Kohen for idolatry. It's something that we also will speak about it later.
Because we know Torah, it's not received by
By inheritance.
You have to make effort yourself.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
the personality.
We'll speak about this guy. Anyway, if it's that true, so this child, this kid, was grandson of Moshe, it makes sense that it's like 50 years after into the land of Israel, 100 years, not much more. And again, it's according to Chachamim, and the same Chachamim said, relate these same people to other stories in the Tanakh that were in the times of David, in the times of after David. So they are very flexible about the years people can live. So these are two of the people that are mentioned here. The third one is Pinchas. We already talked about Pinchas. Pinchas is mentioned in the story of Pilegesh Bagiv'ah. Pilegesh Bagiv'ah is the second story, meaning the concubine in Giv'ah. Giv'ah is hill, but it's also a name of a place. Apparently the place was on the hill, and that's why it's called hill, Giv'ah.
I think we have today Arab village that's called Jabba. Jabba, like Giva.
Yeah.
In the same area.
So he is the third person who was in Yetziat Mitzrayim, or at least in the desert, and is mentioned in these stories. So these are not proofs, but it looks like, and this is the tendency of most of the Mefarshim, to say that these stories happen in the beginning of the time of the Shoftim, not in the end of the time of the Shoftim. Okay, so that was a general introduction. Now we're going to start the stories. Okay, return to the place. Chapter 17, verse Aleph. First verse. There was a man in the hill country of Ephraim whose name was Micha. So the fact that he was from the hill country of Ephraim, meaning that he was from the tribe of Ephraim, not necessarily. People moved from place to place. In these stories, we will see that. But it makes sense. Again, Chachamim relate him to other two people that are mentioned in the Bible. Chachamim said, Hu Micha, Hu Navat, Hu Sheva ben Bochri. Who is Navat and who is Sheva ben Bochri? Sheva ben Bochri was in the times of David HaMelech. He organized revolt against David, and he was killed. So it says the same person. Micha and Navat is the same person. And Sheva ben Bochri. And the third one is Navat. Navat is the father of Yoravam. Who is Yoravam ben Navat? He was the one who divided the kingdom of the son of Shlomo. So the son of Shlomo, Yerohavam, was named as a king. And then there was again a revolt against him, led by Yoravam ben Navat. So like father, like son. And he, not as unlike his father, he succeeded. And the kingdom of Israel was divided to two kingdoms: those of the south with the house of David, tribe Yehuda and Benjamin, and those of the north, the 10 tribes that after that disappeared. So Chachamim relate Mincha with these two people that again lived hundreds of years later, and they also said that he went out from Egypt. And what is the story about him going out from Egypt? According to the Midrash again, Moshe Rabbeinu complained to Hashem, why are you killing all these children? What was the story? According again to the Midrash, is the Jews had to do certain amount of bricks for a day. Remember this? Each day there was a certain amount of bricks that they had to do. And if they didn't, the Egyptian took the children and put them in the bricks as materia. This is again not written in the Torah. I just say that they scream to God, they yell to God, meaning that they were suffering, and this was one of the ways that the Mitzrim torture Am Israel by killing the children. And Moshe Rabbeinu complained to Hashem, why are you doing these horrible things to us? Why are you allowing this thing to happen? And Hashem told him, yeah, you don't understand my ways, and all these children that are dying, no good are going to go out from them. And if you want to see that, take one of them, and you will see what's happened with him. So Moshe Rabbeinu went, and he saved one of these kids. And this kid was Micha. And he was the one who, after that, we read this story about him. It's hard to understand what does it mean exactly. The children that died couldn't be good people. Of course, it's not like that. It's just want to say that we don't understand the reasons of things, why things happen, why horrible things happen. There may be several reasons for that. Anyways, there are other stories about Micha, again, according to the sages in the Midrashim. They related him also to Chet HaEgel. Chet HaEgel. So how Am Israel believed in the golden calf. So the Midrash said that Aaron built the Egel, the calf, and then Micha put the name of God under his tongue, and then the calf starts speaking, saying, I took you out from Egypt. How Micha had the name of God, he stole it from Moshe Rabbeinu. So he was a thief. He stole the name of Hashem, he put it under the tongue of the golden calf, and the golden calf starts speaking. So it was related to Avodah Zarah since then. And it also says, the Midrashim, that he took his pesel with him when they went out from Egypt. He took it with him and went away. So many stories about the person. When we are talking about Midrashim, and especially about Midrashim that say this person is this person and this person is this person, according to many opinions, it's not had to be understood literally, but means it's the same character or the same problem or the same benefit, meaning it's the same. For example, they said Pinchas is Eliyahu. So it may be the same people, but same person, but it also may be that the character of Pinchas and the character of Eliyahu Navi are the same. In this case, for the good side. So when they say that, and we saw that also in the beginning of the book, that Nachash, that Bil'am ben Beor is Lavan, and or Beor, the father of Bil'am, is Lavan, the father-in-law of Yaakov Avinu, and he is Kushan Rishatayim. It's the same person that was the king of Aram in the time of the Shoftim. So when we say that this is the same person, for example, in this case, Ibn Ezra say, it's not the same person, it's the same idea, or the same character, or the same problem that it represents. So we can say also about Micha these same things. Micha represents the deep attraction to idolatry, and also the mixed between idolatry and service of God. It was very confusing, and Chachamim say again in the Midrash that the smoke that came from the temple of Micha and the smoke that came from the tabernacle in Shiloh were mixing in the sky. Meaning Am Israel was with the tendency to Avodat Hashem, to service of God, together with the tendency with idolatry. It was mixed, everything was mixed. And we see that also in that story. Okay, so it's also, I only now spoke about the name, Micha, about the person. But what did he do? So again, there was a man in the country of Ephraim whose name was Micha. He said to his mother, the 1,100 shekels of silver that were taken from you, so that you uttered? Yeah. Said? No, so in Hebrew it says, Ve'at alit, ve'gam amart. It says that you uttered an imprecation, like cursing. So she cursed the person who stole her money. So he said, this money that you said that was stolen from you, that was taken from you, and you cursed the person that that did that you repeated in my hearing, that you told me, I have that silver. Again, the translation is not very accurate. I have that silver, meaning I took this silver. He was a thief. He stole money from his mother. And the mother cursed the person that did that, and he told him. So he was worried because of the curse of his mother. He said, you know what? It was me. Here's the money. So blessed of God be my son, said his mother. So she cursed the person who stole it, but once he understood it, his son, she said, no, blessed be him. So according to one explanation, it was a Knaani culture that a blessing can cancel a curse, right? So once he cursed, he wanted to cancel the curse, so she blessed him immediately. So blessed be my son to God. Now, Baruch b'ni la'Hashem. In Hebrew, it says the name Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, which usually is the real God, right? When it says Yud Kei Vav Kei, it's not to say God, any God, it's a specific God. While when using the word Elohim, it may be God or other gods, or sometimes God, Elohim also may mean a judge or someone with power. The word Elohim comes from the word El, which means power. El, it's not only God, it's also power. The God has the power, right? That's the source. So everybody that has power is considered as Elohim. So here it looks like she is blessing him to the real God, Baruch b'ni Hashem. There is a discussion in the Gemara about these stories. When it says Elohim and God, does it mean the good God or the not good? I mean, or the other gods? It's a lachi question, because if it's the name of God, of the real God, you cannot throw it away. It's holy. It's considered holy. There are laws how to read that, how to treat it. If it's other gods, so it's not, or not so holy, because it's part of the Bible, but it's not the name of God who has special laws. So should we consider this name? It's another question, a halachic question, when Lavan and Yaakov met and they swear to each other in the name of God. So the name God mentioned, the name Elohim is mentioned several times, and Chachamim say this name is a real God. It's a holy God. This name is an idolatry God. So you should know. So here, for example, there are opinions that every time is mentioned God, here is the secular God, not the real God. But there are opinions that say each time it says Yud Kei Vav Kei, meaning the real God, it's the real God. Each time it says Elohim, it's idolatry. According to that, his mother blessed him with the real God, with Hashem, not with idolatry. But look what he says. So he returned the 1,100 shekels of silver to his mother. But his mother said, I herewith consecrate the silver to God. Again, it says Yud Kei Vav Kei, the real God. Transfer it to my son to make a pestle image and a molten image. So I dedicate it to God to do a pestle. We see here a mix, again, between idolatry and the service of God. I now return it to you.
Seems to be a contradiction. Yeah.
Yeah, so is it the real God? So I will explain that in a second. Yeah, we have still have time. So when he gave the silver back to his mother took 200 shekel silver of the 1100s, right? It was 1100s. She took 200s of silver and gave it to a smith. He made of it a pestle image and a molten image, which were kept in the house of Micha.
What's the difference between a pestle image and a molten image?
So pesel is an idol. Masecha is some kind of a mask. But both of them, I believe that pesel maybe it's the whole body and masecha it's only a face or something like that. Anyway, he makes them items that served in his temple. That's what he says in the next verse. Now this man Micha had a house of God. He had made an ephod and oracle idols, and he had inducted one of his sons, inducted one of his sons to be his priest. And then this is the first part of the story. Each part of the story ends with the same verse, like we said before, verse 6. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Everyone did as they pleased, as he pleased. Okay, so this is the first part. So we already see, first of all, theft, right? People steal from each other. We see idolatry, and we see a mix between idolatry and service of God. And this is, I think, that the most logic. So we can say that they just believe in many different gods. In Hashem, in the Baal, in Asherah. We saw that during the stories. So there are many gods. Each one of them has power. Let's just serve everybody. We are not loyal to one God. We are going with everybody. Why choose? Why choose? Just take them all. That's maybe the explanation. There is another explanation of Rabbi Yehuda Halevi in Sefer HaKuzari, which I think it's the most makes sense here. It says it wasn't really idolatry. It was service of God in the wrong way. Because when we talk about idolatry, we must understand that people weren't total fool. And I think we talked about it a little bit. People didn't think that the passage that you just did 5 minutes ago created the world. They weren't so stupid. They knew that it's just something that they built 5 minutes ago. They use these images as means, tools to arrive to God. We are serving God through something. It's very hard to serve abstract, unseen God. We need something more tangible, something to see, to feel, to be connected to. And so we need these means, these tools. And it's similar to what we do, for example, with Sefer Torah. So, of course, there's a difference, but it's the same idea. We are taking an object and say, God is speaking to us through this object, or we can connect to God by kissing and holding this object, right? Or the holiness of this object gives us feel connected with God. Or we are going to the kotel, a specific place with stones, and we feel the holiness of the place. Not to connect to the stones, through them to connect to God. It's a subtle difference, right? But a very important one. And the Kuzari says that the root of the heretic, how do you say, heretic, and the root of the faith, heretic as the opposite of faith. You say heretic?
Yeah.
Heresy. Yeah. So the root of the heresy and the root of the faith are the same. We want to connect to God, and it's hard to connect with him directly, so we look for a means. If the means, the tools to do that are written in the Torah, it's the right way. If it's not written in the Torah, it was invented by men, it's the wrong way, but it's very similar. And this is also the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf. People didn't really think that the golden calf took Am Israel out of Egypt. Like it said, Ele Elokecha Israel Asher. They said, these are the God, your God Israel that took you out of Egypt. They lived there. They saw in their eyes that it wasn't this golden calf that they built 5 minutes ago. Meaning, through this golden calf, we are going to connect to our God that took us out from Egypt. So they believed in God. The name of God was in their lips, let's say, and they were connected to him in the wrong way. This is one aspect, or at least one way of idolatry. There may be other kind of idolatry when people think, yes, there are powers, independent powers of the creator of the world. So there are the creators, there are God, and there are different powers that are independent, that even can fight against God sometimes. Or there are different gods, that all of them has powers, and the world was created as a result of their action. So there are different kinds of idolatry, but one of them at least, or some of them at least, can be a mix between believing in the real God and believing in other gods, or other ways to serve this through God. I want to say that even though the general feeling that you get from this story is negative, you can't avoid also some kind of a positive feeling, at least for myself, about this love and between the mother and son. And I think there also may be a hint here to understand another idea. So this person stole money from his mother, and she was very mad about it. She didn't know it was him. So she cursed the person that did that. Once she understood that it was her son, she changed it. She blessed him, and she gave him the money to build idolatry, never mind. But we can see that the love of the mother is stronger than any other thing, or I mean, at least stronger than the money, right? We can say there is also a hint here. God is our mother and father, both of them. So even though we steal from him, meaning we don't obey, we don't go in the right way, there's still a place for forgiveness, right? And the curse can become a blessing. And also we can say that the curse is not really a curse. It's a way to educate us. So it's maybe it's something, but I do feel that there is some kind of kindness between mother and son, and we'll see after that in the stories that Micha was a kind person. And Chachamim answer in this way a question. Chachamim said, how come, if you said, according to what we just said, that the pesel of Micha came out from Egypt, by the way, if the pesel of Micha came out of Egypt, all the start, all the beginning of the story is in Egypt. Right? So because we say that it took the pesel out of Egypt. So all the story that we read in verse 2, it says in the verse 1 that the main way came from the hill of country of Ephraim. But it says verse 2, and he said to his mother, the 1100 shekel, etc. So this conversation was in Egypt. And he took the pesel out of Egypt. So the Chachamim asked, how come that the person that came out from Egypt with the pesel in his hands could go through the Sea of Reeds, and could go through the 40 years in the desert, and could enter the land of... Why didn't he die in the golden calf, for example? And he says the reason was because he was a person of kindness, and he was machnis orchim. We will see the later stories that the people of Dan, when they went to look for a place to live, they go through his house and he hosted them. So he was a person with hospitality, of accepting guests and helping people in the way. So his kindness was from one side, and his idolatry was on the other side. And who win? The kindness, at least in some aspects. He wasn't killed, etc. So we cannot say it was only dark. It's also some kind of kindness, of good, of positive aspect of this story. And again, the love between mother and God, and the kindness of Micha, we will see that also later in these stories. Okay, so just to sum this part, there was a person, he stole money, the money was used to build, after that, to build idolatry, to build idols and mask, and a molten image and a pestle image. And he had also ephod and trafim. We didn't mention that. Trafim are also some kind of little idols that people used to ask them. It's translated here as oracle. Oracles that say, right, say things. And, huh?
Like the
the oracle of, of the Greeks. Yeah, it's a translation. It's not a Hebrew word, but the idea is some kind of idols that say the future or something like that.
Breastplate of the priest.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it was. And then also the ephod. The ephod is some kind of a cloth, also that was for the Kohanim. So he had a temple, idols, trafim, all this stuff, and he was offering a service to Am Israel that was basically not according to the Torah or against the Torah. And the reason for that everybody can do whatever he wants. There's no king in Israel, there's no authority, there's no guidance, and there's no leadership. So everybody do what he pleased. Okay, so this is the first part of the story. Okay, any comments or questions? No?
You talk
Okay.
about an oracle. One of my professors in social studies used to have a